Hi, my name is Elisa, and I'm a technical support analyst on the VertiGIS Studio team. In this tech tip video, we'll go over how to use events in VertiGIS Studio Web to customize the behavior of your apps. We'll start by looking at some of the components where events can be configured, then go over the order of initialization for events that run during app startup, and finally take a look at the event service, which can be used to customize the behavior of events that are not otherwise exposed in Web Designer. Some events tend to be more commonly used than others, so let's start by looking at one of the more popular events, which is result shown. To get to it, we'll open up our app in Web Designer, click on the results list component, scroll down, and expand the events section. It looks like it's configured with the default commands to highlight the selected features, display a chart if one has been configured, and display KPI cards if they have been configured. If we select a bunch of features so that they're shown in the results list, we'll see that the behavior configured in the result shown event happens. It's important to mention that there are typically multiple different results components in an app, and that they may or may not share the same event configuration. For example, if we open up our result details component, we can see that the commands in the results shown event are different compared to the results list component. But if we open up our results table component, we can see that the configuration for the results shown event is the same as it is in the results list component. Expanding the shared configuration menu at the top tells us that these two components are actually linked together, so editing the events for one should apply the same changes to the events for the other. This will come in handy in our upcoming example. To take a look at how events can be used to change the behavior of our app, let's try to set things up so that the map zooms to the selected features when they are displayed in the results list or in the results table. To do this, we'll add the map.zoomToFeatures command in the results shown event of our results list. Now, let's use the query tool to select all of the duplexes in our buildings layer. When the results are populated in the results list, the map now zooms to the selected features so they're easier to see. As mentioned earlier, the results list and the results table components are linked, so if you open up the results table component, we'll see that the work of modifying the results shown event is already done there too. If we switch to the table view and run the query again, the map zooms to the selected features in the table. Since the result details component is not linked, its results shown event hasn't been changed at all, so clicking on one of these features to bring up more information does not move the map around, which is perfect. That's all great if you're only looking to configure events on the results components, but what about other types of events? Let's take a quick look at a few other components that have built-in events available in their settings. For example, we have the layer clicked, layer hovering, and layer hovered events in the layer list component, map interaction events like map clicked, map hovering, map hovered, and map viewpoint changed in the map component, and a couple events in the search component that help dictate the behavior of the search tool. Another common use for events is to get them to perform tasks when the app first loads. For example, you could run a workflow at startup that changes the layout of the app based on the screen size of the device so that it looks nicer on phones and tablets. There are several different startup events which each get triggered during a different point of the initialization process. The order of initialization is actually quite important when working with startup events since you can't perform tasks on components that haven't loaded yet. You also don't want to do anything that requires user feedback during crucial parts of the startup process in case it accidentally interrupts the initialization of important components. You can refer to our documentation page on the order of initialization events to see what happens when. The first two, Application Initializing and Application Initialized, can be found in the App menu under the Services tab in Web Designer. These two happen right at the beginning when the framework for the app is being laid out, so they should be used with caution. For example, they shouldn't be used to display forms or alerts to the user, which will interrupt the startup process, and they shouldn't call on anything that hasn't been loaded yet, like map layers. The next two, Layout Loading and Layout Loaded, are useful because they only happen when the layout that they are tied to is initialized. This means that you can have different startup behaviors for different layouts, like automatically enabling geolocation if the mobile view of an app is loaded, but keeping it turned off if the desktop view is loaded instead. The events happen whenever the layout is loaded, which could be at app startup or anytime the layout is swapped. Next up, the launch link workflow is triggered. This is not really a configurable event, and it only happens if the user has launched the app using a URL that has a launch link workflow parameter in it. You can add launch link workflows using the menu in the Services tab of Web Designer. Finally, the map initialized event happens. This is typically the safest startup event to use because it happens when the map has finished loading. The catch is that since it happens last, performing tasks like swapping the layout may look a bit clumsy since the user will likely see the default layout fully loaded before it switches. You can find the map initialized event in the map component. To demonstrate how some of these events work, let's set things up so that our app automatically switches to a mobile layout if it's loaded on a smaller screen and displays an alert that the app is currently in its user testing phase. The first portion should happen right at the beginning of the app startup process to prevent the user from seeing the default layout swapping out for the mobile one, but the second portion involves displaying an alert, so putting it at the beginning could break the app. To account for this, we'll actually want to stick these two actions into separate events. The first one will go into the application initializing event. If you remember from earlier, this is the very first startup event that happens. Since there is a bit of logic involved, we need to use a workflow. This workflow grabs the information about the screen width using the viewer.getCapabilities operation. Then, it checks if the width of the screen is 820 pixels or less. If you're wondering where this value of 820 pixels comes from, it's a width listed for the iPad Air in the Chrome browser developer tools. Next, the workflow runs the viewer.loadLayout command to load the mobile layout. Finding the correct command parameter can be a bit challenging here, so my trick is to add the switch layout command to my app in Web Designer, select the desired layout, and click the Customize icon to view the raw commands. Then, we can simply copy over the arguments. For good measure, the workflow also sets the UI density to a compact view to make sure everything fits on a smaller screen. The alert action will go into the map initialized event, which happens after pretty much everything has safely finished loading. We'll go into the settings for the map component, expand the events section, and click the Select Command button under Map Initialized. From here, we can select the alert command and customize our message. Now, if we launch the app from our desktop browser, we get the standard view of the app with the alert we configured. If we open up our browser developer tools, toggle on the mobile emulator, and reload the page, we get the mobile view instead, followed by the same alert message. Finally, there's one more way to work with events in your VertiGIS Studio web apps, and that's to configure event listeners in the event service. This option allows you to work with events that aren't otherwise exposed in Web Designer. To give you a better idea of what this means, let's head over to the Events reference page in the Developer Center. This page lists all of the built-in events that the event service can listen for. As you can see, there are a lot more events here than what was available in Web Designer, and they cover a much wider range of actions. Using the event service, you can customize what happens when any of these events occur. To demonstrate, let's say we want to allow users to apply attribute edits in bulk, then get them to double-check their edits. To start, we will add the bulk attribute update component to our app. Let's put it in the side panel below the results components. And also add the bulk attribute update command to our result actions menu. Now, when we test it out, our edits get applied and we're taken back to the results list, but that means the user will have to click back and forth between the results details and the results list to double check all of their changes. To make it easier on them, let's minimize the number of clicks required by displaying all the edited features in the result details component after a bulk edit. To do this, we'll go to the event service and add a new event listener. We'll configure it on the edit.bulkAttributeUpdateComplete event. For the action, we'll select the custom command option and enter results.displayDetails. This command accepts features as an argument, and if we check the arguments for the edit.bulkAttributeUpdateComplete event, we see that it provides features as an output, so the two should work with each other. Finally, let's give it a descriptive title. This time, when we go to apply bulk edits, instead of being sent back to the results list, we see a detailed view of the current feature and can easily click through the rest of the modified items to check them over. That wraps up our video on working with events in VertiGIS Studio Web. To recap, we looked at some of the components where events can be configured, went over the various app startup events, and talked about how the event service can be used for fine-tuning an app's behavior. With the ability to customize how your apps respond to events, the door is open for creative new ways to build tailored user experiences. If you like this video, please drop us a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more tech tips. As always, thank you for watching.